My puppy gets overexcited and frustrated when we pass dogs and kids while on leash. We've been working on frequent exposure from afar, but it seems like he also has an unmet social need. How should I meet this? This is a great question. And of course, I can't comment on this dog specifically, but I'd like to use this as an opportunity to talk about the link between frustration and unmet needs. But sometimes an unmet need does create frustration, or it exacerbates frustration. It can increase stress, which is another way of saying that it can increase arousal. Sometimes needs are not being satiated because we don't know how to satiate them, or we don't recognize that there is that specific unmet need. Sometimes behavior concerns can get in the way of satiating needs. For example, you could have a dog who is frustrated on leash when they see other dogs and they want to play with other dogs. They are interested in that, but their arousal levels are so high that even if dogs aren't the trigger themselves, they can't engage in a way that is appropriately social and enjoyable for everyone. Or you could have a dog who maybe same sort of scenario, but actually does do really well with other dogs, but the only way in this scenario for this dog to engage with other dogs is to take car rides, and the dog really suffers in the car. Another common scenario I see is that we'll have a dog whose baseline stress level is like in the yellow, and then we're getting their baseline down through behavior therapy and often behavior medication. And suddenly they have the bandwidth for more. And so where previously their needs were being satiated with a certain amount and type of mental enrichment, physical exercise, social interactions, sensory stimulation, and species typical behaviors, that's no longer the case. Now they need more. And that's always kind of a really fun and happy surprise. I was having a conversation with a client about the possibility that was happening with their dog just this morning. And it's very cool to say, I think your dog's stress levels are down so much that they're ready to take on more of the world. They have the bandwidth to process more and enjoy more in really healthy, awesome ways. So, there are a lot of scenarios where frustration might be exacerbated or even caused by unmet needs. And there are a bunch of different reasons why those needs might be unmet. So how do we meet them? In the case of simply not knowing which needs are unmet or how to meet them, I really like the Canine Enrichment for the Real World book and accompanying workbook. You can also check out the Pet Harmony blog. They have so much good information about enrichment. And then there's the Enrichment for the Real World podcast. Also an excellent resource if you want to do a deep dive into enrichment. It can help to understand what is normal for the developmental phase that your dog is in, what is normal for their breed, by figuring out their likes and their dislikes through reading their body language and their behavior. Gathering data about what they like and what they don't like. So trying out an enrichment activity, seeing about their stress levels, seeing about appropriately matching the challenge and the skill level, seeing about their body language, their emotion, and then seeing about the impact that has on them. So if I am trying to see if, playtime with other dogs can set my dog up to be less frustrated on leash, then I could measure that. And I could see if engaging in those activities has that impact. And I might want to take multiple measurements. So maybe I don't notice that frustration on leash decreases very much when my dog has more play dates, even though the play dates seem to be going well. Emotions are positive, arousal levels are good. But maybe I notice decreased pacing around the house and decreased reactivity inside and more restlessness. And maybe I notice that they're picking on the other dog in the house less. So be open to it helping in a way that wasn't what you anticipated. But notice, is it enriching for your dog? Do they crash out afterwards and then wake up sort of toddler tired? That might indicate that the enrichment had an opposite effect and actually made things harder for your dog, was too stressful, or wasn't a positive experience, or just wasn't enriching for some other reason. Now, if there is a behavior concern getting in the way of accessing your dog's needs, so either the behavior concern itself, let's say in the example of the dog who is frustrated on leash and enjoys playing with other dogs but is just too aroused to do so, has the social skills but can't access them from that point of arousal. We could address the arousal issues and really help that dog work on the ability to self-regulate, really help them work on flight skills, really help them work on stepping slowly into those social interactions. Some dogs might just need the interaction, the greeting, to slow down a little. We want to look at what other triggers are happening that might be contributing to that arousal level. Is the car ride also hard? Did we have a vet visit that same morning? Is there some trigger stacking happening? And we can make adjustments to help the dog be successful in engaging in that enriching activity that would be enriching if only there wasn't this barrier. Or there could be a behavior concern that is sort of unrelated but related, right? Like the dog who struggles in the car, and so they're not able to get to the play dates or get to daycare or whatever the case may be. And same sort of thing there, we can address that barrier. And then the other side of that, so while we're addressing those barriers, we can also get creative and imaginative. And it can be helpful here to turn to other people like in your community, in support groups, your behavior consultant or trainer, to really crowdsource those ideas. Is there another way to meet this need? If my dog can't go to daycare anymore because that experience is too arousing, but still benefits from playtime, how can I make doggy friends for my dog? Could we find friends through local community? Could we talk to some of our pet professionals to see if they know other folks, clients, patients who are looking for dog playmates and might be a good match? Is there a local social media where these conversations are taking place to link up? Are there smaller daycare options or daycares, run with 1 or 2 dogs out of someone's home? Are there friends or family who might be interested in getting dogs together? Are there any local meetup groups? Are there other ways that we could meet the needs similarly, even if not exactly? So do we want to just incorporate more play with the dog and the human, even though they might enjoy dog-dog play? Would social play in general be beneficial? Do they like playing with other animals that maybe they have access to, like cats? In the scenario where the dog suddenly has bandwidth for more, like in the original scenario, you might notice where the need is unmet by where some of that frustration is popping up. And so if I have a dog who is frustrated on leash when they see other dogs, and maybe that's a new thing, maybe before they didn't seem to have the bandwidth to engage with dogs at all. Or maybe they were nervous or fearful or anxious, and now they have a positive association, but that arousal is still a bit up. And so now it looks like frustration instead of fear. We can take those next steps to support the dog. And there might be, for some dogs, there might be several steps between, watching other dogs on leash and actually playing together. And for other dogs, it might not be a very big gap at all. But this is a really fun opportunity to figure out what your dog likes and what your dog doesn't like. It can be fun to see what our dogs tell us they enjoy. And sometimes we get to be surprised, and our dogs can introduce us to cool activities that we would not have engaged in otherwise. So it can be quite a fun adventure.